Welcome to this video tutorial on how to use Stable Diffusion AI to create 2.5D Ghibli environments in Blender. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to apply different AI techniques to generate depth and detail in your environments to create immersive, lifelike environments that could be used for video games, movies, or other digital media. Blender is a powerful 3D modeling and animation software that has been used to create stunning visual effects in numerous films and games. With the help of AI like Stable Diffusion, we can take our Blender creations to the next level by generating rich, detailed environments that would be otherwise difficult to create by hand. In this tutorial, I'm going to start by explaining the basics of Stable Diffusion and how it could be used in Blender 3.5 to create 2.5D environments. However, I won't walk you through the entire process of installing the necessary software, but I'll leave a quick video in the description and the necessary documentations to get you started. I'll cover everything from creating a simple environment to incorporating techniques like parallax effect. So let's dive into it. Now here I am in Stable Diffusion, and I've left a tutorial down below to show you how to install the Stable Diffusion and run it locally on your PC. But you're gonna need a decent graphics card, at least an NVIDIA 2070 and up. However, I've been able to use it on my laptop, but you're gonna have to wait for very long times to do samplings. Anyway, you're gonna set your sampling steps at 25. You're gonna leave your sampling method at Euler A because we are using Ghibli diffusion checkpoint. So if in case you did not see that I'm using the Ghibli diffusion checkpoint, which don't worry, I'm going to leave a link to download everything that's needed for you to run this exact same page that I'm running, which is Stable Diffusion 1.5 using the Stable Diffusion Ghibli diffusion checkpoint. Everything's going to be down in the description where you need it, and a short video on how to install it. Just focus on the techniques that I'm using. Yeah? So, I'm not going to use restore faces because I'm not going for a realistic landscape. What I'm going for here is a Ghibli style, and you need to write Ghibli style while using this checkpoint in order to generate Ghibli style landscapes or characters. And I'm going to leave it at Euler A as I said. I'm going to leave the width and the height for now at 512 so I can experiment with as many patches as I want. And I'm going to leave the seed at -1 because I need the seed. I have not found what I want yet. What seed is basically when you find something that you like, you want it to be randomized according to the seed. And you'll understand more once I show you how to use it. Yeah. And I'm going to write a prompt in my text to image tab. And this prompt is going to generate 5 images that are Ghibli style. How am I going to go about this? Now let me give you a quick introduction to prompts. First, you need to give what exactly do you want in the picture. Second, do you want the medium in which the picture is? Third, you want to give it some stylization. But since I'm using Ghibli, it's not going to be necessary for me to use the name of artists or let's say mediums, or to go very deep into styles, so to speak. To go very deep into prompts, so to speak, because you're already using the Ghibli diffusion. I mean, this is why I chose this tutorial, because it's going to be easy for beginners to follow through with it, especially with the Ghibli diffusion checkpoint. It's very easy to make the environments that you're looking for, like with just a few words. So let's say I want, for example, it's really beautiful when you use this model for morning landscapes. I've noticed when I used it to simulate something at night, it doesn't come out as good. So you won't find any good prompts to generate a cozy night cabin or something like that. Anyway, Ghibli style kingdom in the middle of the woods. I'm going to emphasize woods. I want there to be a lot of woods in my prompt, in the images that I generate, by putting woods between these two brackets. Yeah. All right. And I want the medium to be vintage anime, or you can just write anime, or even if you did not write these many prompts, you can come up with a good outcome. This is an iterative process, as in you should start first with Ghibli style kingdom in the middle of the woods. You want a lot of woods. You want it to be vintage anime. You want it to be, for example, high resolution. But I'm only using this as an example first. Second of all, I want to show you how to use negative prompts. So what I'm going to do is generate this prompt that I wrote down here, Ghibli style kingdom in the middle of the woods, between two brackets woods, vintage anime, high resolution. And the results look beautiful, but it's not exactly what I want. There are several problems with the results that I have here. First of all, this is not a kingdom. This is a cabin, a Japanese style cabin that's very beautiful, and you can download this and move on to the next step if you want. You can skip the video to the next step that I'm going to do. Or if you want to be really accurate with your prompts and to get out the results that you actually want, you're gonna do what I'm going to do. These two steps right here. And this is also not a kingdom, it's a cabin. It looks good. I mean, if you like these results, save them, we can use them later. The woods look fantastic, but I'm not sure about the architecture. And I'm going to import this into Blender later. This is the point of this entire tutorial, is to make this appear as though it was 3D in Blender, so you can insert your own characters and make your own short movies with it without having to worry about the environments. I mean, this looks beautiful. This is what you spend hours trying to achieve as cell shading, but with a shortcut. But again, not what I want. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add some negative prompts, some things that I do not want to appear in my photos. And this is how I'm gonna go about it. And now that I've tried it again, I've had way better results. Look at this. This is a kingdom. You can say so at least. This looks like something out of a Ni no Kuni, what do you call it, map, if you're familiar with that game. This is a kingdom, but I feel that I somewhat lost the Ghibli style and shading. But we're going to get it back. Just let me show you how. This is not a kingdom, but it's more specific to what I wanted than what it was in the first time. So adding these negative prompts in these brackets to emphasize what I want in my picture gave me better results. However, I feel that I do not need this many prompts to generate something good, and I'm going to use this seed for my future generations, and this is what you can do as well to generate pictures like these in the future. But now I'm going to show you how to get better architecture in the image to image tab. So load up image to image, and let us start with a prompt. And I've chosen like a random photo from Google. That's basically Switzerland, which is the closest thing you can get to a magical kingdom in real life. And I want to transpose this into a Ghibli style image. I want to make it from this style into a Ghibli style. How am I going to go about this? And why did I load up image to image? What I'm going to do is use an extension of stable diffusion called controlnet. What this basically does, it takes the depth information of this image, and I'm going to use the depth twice, not just once. What controlnet is going to do is it's going to take the depth of this image and imitate something with the same depth. And the depth map is basically information that's between white and black and gray that represents what you have in the picture according to proximity. And it's going to be much clearer when I show you how to use it. I mean, we can talk about it all day or we can use it. So I'm going to enable this one, choose a depth, actually depth layers, because I want it to be accurate to the geometry that I have. Sorry, not geometry, accurate architecture. And I'm going to use depth again. And let's see what happens when I say Ghibli style. I'm not going to use any negative prompts. I'm going to rely on my image, and I'm going to gradually add more prompts as I go. And the CFG scale does not have to be that high. Again, I'm going to leave it at 9. Give yourself a batch count of 5. Sampling steps of 25 is more than enough. And generate. And I must say, for the first try, we've generated some pretty decent results. This is what we can see here. I mean, this kind of looks like the reference image. This one's my favorite. I'm going to keep the seed just in case. I'm going to copy the seed. But I'm still experimenting and I might come up with something better. But you can see we have a waterfall here. And there's this small church looking building that's not very well represented here. There is a house that's missing. And where did this come from? This looks pretty cool as something experimentational. But my aim was to have something as close to this picture in the style of Ghibli. So I'm going to try again but I'm going to add another control model. And this is going to be the same picture that I have as the reference. And I put it I put the same picture as, what do you call it, the depth. This is what I want. And I'm going to use the canny model. Or better yet, I'm going to use HED to take out the outline of the geometry here, but not to go into too much detail that it takes very long to load, and to make exactly what you see here. So I can see the building that's over here, I can see these buildings, and let me show you what I mean by this. Okay, so choose the HED model, enable it, leave these settings as they are. We're not gonna go into too much detail, this is a beginner tutorial. Now I'm going to click generate again. And now the canny model has given me some pretty interesting results, and I find that the more models that I add that I wanted to make for the purpose of making it close to my reference image, the closer I get to my reference image, but the further away I get from the Ghibli style. So there is a balance that I need to find here. So this is much more architecturally accurate according to this, and I'm just going to experiment just one last time with another model. And this model is going to be the segmentation model. And by the way, I could have used MLSD, but this is way too realistic. I mean, this is for architecture and interior design, but this is way too realistic for what I'm going here. And the purpose of me using segmentation and the example you see on the reference resources, usually segmentation is used interiorly for the sake of interior. But I'm using it here for it to segmentate and to differentiate between different parts of the image and the composition of the image that we see here. So I'm gonna try it with segmentation, and I've got some pretty good results previously with segmentation. This is why I'm repeating it here. And I'm going to add some more prompts here. See you after I generate. And this is the result that I'm met with. I have two notes about this. First of all, obviously Ghibli diffusion does not know what a waterfall is, because this is not a waterfall. It's closer to the reference image now because it segmented the houses and the trees into different segments. It looks a tad bit more realistic. So again, as I said, the more controlnet models that I add, the further away that I stray from the Ghibli style. I mean, the only thing that's Ghibli is the mountains in the back and the trees in the back, but everything that's closer to the viewer, so to speak, is very un-Ghibli style. This one, I like the color composition of this one. And another thing I'm going to note is this small house here is missing. And this is because my original image is 1080 by 1920, and this image is 512. So one thing I can do to correct it is to match the width and the height of this image. This is one thing I can do. The other thing that I could do is, for example, to do as a negative prompt out of frame, which is not going to be as effective as increasing the width and the length, but it's going to do some fixing here. I'm not gonna say blurry because, I mean, the art style of Ghibli is blurry. It's an international negative term, but I can't use it here. And I'm going to keep experimenting until I get the result that I want. I might remove some control models. I might change the style, the prompt that I have. I might change the reference image. I might even go back to text to image and choose some pictures that I already like. And I forgot to do this last time, so I'm going to Control V, paste the seed, and I'm going to try it one last time. And by the way, we're going to move on to the final step in Stable Diffusion before we move on to Blender. So make sure you have a picture that you're satisfied with, whether you use text to image, image to image, or just I don't know, just find a picture that you're satisfied with so we can move on to depth to image, then we can move on to Blender. And now after some experimentation, I was satisfied with this result, and I achieved this result by highering the denoising strength and lowering the amount of models that I have in my control net, because at the end of the day I want a Ghibli style, which is inspired by this image, but I want more emphasis on the Ghibli style than for it to be accurately representative of this image. So now I'm going to move on to the depth model, and I'm going to save the images that I like from here and upscale them so they would work well with the depth model. So see you after I upscaled some of my favorite images and uploaded them to the depth model. Now here I am at the final stage before going to Blender. This is the depth tab, and what I'm going to do here is to generate a high resolution depth map so I can generate videos from the images that I made using text to image or image to image. I'm going to upload the images that I'm most satisfied with in here. Then I'm going to generate a depth map from it using my GPU, and I have a pretty good GPU, so it's not going to take that long for me, but this is a very taxing process, so be very patient when you're doing it. And I'm going to enable generating a 3D and painted mesh, and as you see here it says that it's going to be really slow, and this is the mesh that I'm going to download from Stable Diffusion and put into Blender. So without further delay, let me choose the image that I'm most satisfied with. And I really like how this image turned out. I upped the noise factor, and I lowered the amount of models that I was using, and decided that I wanted to go with a really fantasy settings and not rely on the base image so much. And I'm going to use the Res 101 model and compare it with the Miras, but the Res 101 model is what I personally found to be the best compatible model with the Ghibli diffusion and Blender. But you can choose each one of these and decide which one you like the most. So I'm going to click on generate and meet you back after half an hour, because this is a really long process. And not only have I generated a high resolution depth map so I could use in Blender, but I'm also going to show you like a preview of what you can do with this technology. This is basically a video that's been generated from this image using the inputs that I put down here. This is basically what I'm going to do with the camera inside of Blender. But instead of just using this video, not only when I use Blender can I add my own lighting, I can even add some volumetric effects. I can have like a character staring at this view and make the focus on it, like adjust the focal length, etc. This is going to improve your workflow if you're a character artist like me who suffers with making environments. So anyway, without further delay, let's jump into Blender. Now, once we get to Blender, this could go one of two ways. The first way that I'm going to show you requires me to eradicate the default cube, as always. We don't mess with default cubes on this channel. And I'm going to scale up. Wait, let me rotate on the x-axis. Okay, now I'm going to choose a view, press Ctrl-Alt-0, and as always, adjust my view to my camera and choose the size of the plane that I'm portraying. Now, I'm going to add a subdivision surface modifier, simple, crank it up to the max. Then I'm going to add a displacement modifier, and I'm going to add a texture, of which the texture is actually going to be the depth map that I've generated. Now add in the depth map that you generated. And this is the result. It looks a bit weird, but don't worry, we can fix it in one of two ways. We could increase the strength of the displacement modifier, or we can simply add more subdivision surface. And the last way with that we could do is add in a multi-resolution modifier, but that would be an overkill. However, you do you. Now, I'm going to choose my, my image as the base color by using an image texture at the principled BSDF. And this is the result that you're expected to find. Of course, there are some downsides to this method. As I mentioned, this is not a fully 3D environment. The problem with this method is that you're left with this, basically. Look at these themes. You are very limited with your camera movement, so you have to plan out your camera movements very carefully. But this is good for quick renders, perhaps, maybe. And after a while, you're going to be met with this. And this is your scene. And let me show you how to set it up. First, I need the camera to be adjacent to the scene, but let me adjust it in a way that's not confusing. Let me rotate it on the x-axis. Wait, other way around. Rx minus 90. And I'm going to use the camera view. Wait. There you have it. This is your scene. And if you value your PC, you will not add any more subdivision surface modifiers to this, or even any multi-resolution. No modifiers. I mean, do not even shade it smooth. Take it as it is in the shading editor. Give it a new material. Call this PLY material, PLY test material, or whatever. And in the shading editor, all you have to do is use your vertex colors. And in Blender 3.5, vertex colors are color attributes now. So if you're confused on where to find that node, it's named differently now. Lower the roughness and the specular, as always. Use the color as the emission. That's all you need to do. Let's go back and see. And our scene looks drastically different. It looks more detailed. Change the world settings. And this is what you expect. This is what you could expect. I have another scene in the background, the one that we generated with the depth map, if you remember, so I can have more freedom while roaming around. And this is pretty good, actually. It's a fantastic result. You can add this with some volumetric lighting, as I've said. Choose your own lighting if you want to remove the emission and light the scene as you want it to be lit. You can add some volumetric mist, fog, some depth of field, change the camera around as you see fit, add some characters, some more meshes in the foreground, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed this Blender tutorial. I hope it wasn't too long or too taxing. If you're interested in seeing more AI tools being used with Blender, please let me know. If you want to see more traditional modeling like hard surface modeling or character box modeling, I'm also happy to oblige. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.